So today I got an email from the government, and it turns out that they have cancelled every single petition. Like every single one. Apparently we live in a democracy, but like I said, they have cancelled every single petition. Let me explain. So usually I don't really bother with petitions. Like I don't think the government listen to you on the best of days. So I think asking them a question, it's pretty much a lost cause from the get-go. So like I said, signing petitions is not something that I do regularly. But it is for something that I do actually feel pretty strongly about. I'll give you the 20-second version. There's a very popular game and a very unique game as well. It's a racing game called The Crew. It's on all the major platforms like Xbox and PlayStation. And I own this on disc. I got it at launch in 2014. And like I said, I own it on disc, which is very important to the story. So this game called The Crew, it was made by a company called Ubisoft, who are one of the largest gaming companies currently on the market. And it's a decent game as well. The map is basically a smaller version of the USA, so it's pretty unique. But whilst taking the millions that they've earned from the game, like genuinely millions, Ubisoft has decided that they no longer want to support The Crew. Essentially, they've just given up. Even though the game is made, it's completed, they released it, people purchased it, they're just giving up. And we will get to the government involvement in a moment. But there's a problem with Ubisoft. Because this game requires you to be connected to the internet. Even though it's a single-player game, it's essentially what they call an always-online game. So with Ubisoft no longer supporting it, it means that you can't play this game. I'll say it again, it's a single-player game. I've got the disc, and I still have that disc as well. But if I put this into my Xbox at the moment, a product that I paid for, it will no longer work. It's essentially been deleted from my ownership post-sale. As a physical copy, and essentially they've just cancelled the purchase, like a decade later. And they're not offering any refunds, no money back or anything like that. Just completely gone. But where does the government come into this? Well, like I said, today I received this email, and I'm not going to read the whole thing out just to save time. But it's in regards to this petition here, to stop companies from retracting ownership after the sale. Honest, it seems like pretty basic stuff. You purchase an item, that's your item. But this email here, like I said, it's completely cancelled. Because it says, "Dear myself, you recently signed the petition called Require Video Game Publishers to keep games that they have sold in a working state. But the government say that because of the general election, the closing date for the petition that you have signed has changed. And it says that all petitions are now closing on the 30th of May. It says that this is because Parliament will be dissolved, which means that all parliamentary businesses, including petitions, must stop. And it says that it will be available for people to read on the site, but it will be closed for signatures. And it summarises by saying that this petition won't be reopened after the election. Essentially because the government is having an election, they've cancelled every single petition. We're getting it from both angles here. We're getting it from Ubisoft from taking your items. And we're getting it from the government by just not letting you stand up for yourself. It's got nothing to do with the election. Absolutely nothing. So I think automatically cancelling every single petition just because you've decided to have an election. Like I said, it's just irrelevant. It makes no sense. Because remember, this is a single-player game as well. All of this footage that I've been playing on screen here, it was just me. It's a single-player game. It just makes no sense. And I know that a lot of my audience, they're probably not major gamers. But let me explain it to you this way. This is like the shoes that you're wearing now, right? Let's say you got those shoes 5 years ago, even 10 years ago in my case, with this game. Let's say that the company that you bought those shoes from, they just take it back without asking. You paid for them, but apparently not. Apparently the deal has completely changed. But this for me, like I said, this is a pretty big deal. Because this calls into question what real ownership actually means. I thought that I owned what I owned. That's the transaction finished. And it's probably the same as yourself. And remember, I signed this petition myself quite a while ago. And I have not mentioned it on the channel either. I just signed it just off my own back. This is probably the 4th petition that I've ever signed. And they've just cancelled it. Like I said, it's a full price game. Back in the day, back in 2014, this cost me 40 quid. Because like I said, this transaction, as far as I was concerned, this is complete. Like back in the day when you were growing up. This was just unheard of. Because what gets me, right? The map is on the disc, as well as the cars. You've got the engine sounds are there, as well as the missions. Like, everything is on the disc. But they're just turning the ability to play it off. Like, they've essentially just changed a little bit of code. And now they've just made the product that you purchased. Essentially, it's now just a faulty product. But like I said, this petition, it is absolutely irrelevant to the election. And I signed it as well. I knew Ubisoft was not going to do a thing. Because if it did ever go to court or anything like that, all of these game companies are going to have to change their ways. So it's really not a situation that I could see, like, changing genuinely. But I just thought I'd sign the petition because, like I said, I actually believe in the cause. Because whether it's Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak, like I said, it is absolutely irrelevant. But seeing this email from the government today, honestly, like I said, I have not mentioned it on the channel. But I just feel like the paths have crossed here with the government email. And I really think that they've just propelled themselves into this one. Because the footage that you're seeing on screen right now, this is footage of me about half an hour ago playing The Crew 2. Because they did do a sequel. So Ubisoft could argue that, you know, they could just say, oh, you just play that instead, mate. Why can't you just play The Crew 2? But again, that's irrelevant. Because I've already paid for both items. I paid for The Crew 1 and I paid for The Crew 2. But now I can't play the first one. And the thing is, right, I'd love to get some accurate footage. You know I love to keep it accurate when it comes to the footage on screen. So I'd love to get some footage which is actually The Crew. But as a consumer who wants to play the game that I paid for, who even has a business interest in playing the game because I want it to be accurate for the video, even with all of that, the company can just essentially remove the game from my hands. Again, it's not a digital copy. I've got the disc. I don't know how many times I've got the disc. And even with all this in mind, right, people still call this a free country. But like I said, I really think that this just goes against my consumer rights. As well as the petition as well. I find the petition angle, I find that angle very dodgy. But when I purchased The Crew 1, I did not think that a decade later they were just going to take it off me. But does this seem fair to you? Does it seem fair to just go back on a transaction 10 years later? Like I said, it's like them trying to come in and take your shoes. You should just tell them to swivel. Because thousands of people signed this petition, so they really should have a voice. But then again, what do we know? We're just the tax-paying consumers who thought we had rights. So, thank you for becoming one of the 35,720 subscribers. Thank you to the channel members, and thank you for checking out this video on screen.
This country has gone crazy.